Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, president and founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand-Up. Without any further ado, let's get started. Today, I wanted to talk to you about a topic that is not talked about as often as it probably should be, right? So a lot of people will have discussion in the Scrum world or even in the Kanban world about definition of done and about how done is defined and about acceptance criteria and about how we deliver things to an end customer. And this has been a long-standing part of getting projects done, right? Or getting things done. But one of the things that we very rarely talk about is the definition of ready and the importance of the definition of ready. So in a recent post by Dr. Jeff Sutherland, he was talking about definition of ready, and here's what he had to say. He said, having a definition of ready means that stories must be immediately actionable. That makes perfect sense, right? We want to follow along with what Bill Wake said about backlog items. We want to make sure they're independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, sized appropriately, and testable. So that means that, in my opinion, those characteristics are what make an item actionable. They make it ready to go, yes. It needs to be ready to be consumed. The team must be able to determine what needs to be done with a clear way, right? And the amount of work required to complete that user story or PBI, product backlog item. So I want to point out that it didn't say the team must be able to determine how long it takes to get something done. It says the team must be able to determine what needs to be done and the amount of work required. So I thought that was an interesting change from the past where Scrum has had a long-standing focus on time-based estimation. This is a great way for us to see a shift towards the story point estimation and towards t-shirt sizing and things along those lines to help us really get our head around what work is being asked for, what work is being asked of the team, right? So the team also, in order for them to understand ready, the team has to be able to understand the definition of done. So the done criteria and what tests are going to be performed to demonstrate that the story is complete are going to help drive what we need to do for the ready criteria. So I think that if we're doing test-driven design or test-driven development, or that if we start with the end in mind, if we're working in more of a DevOps type fashion, we're going to discover that once a story is ready, it's clear, concise, and most importantly, like I said, actionable, that we can do something with it, that it can enter into a sprint, that it can clearly be taken care of, and that there's not going to be any hiccups or anything along the way that's going to cause us grief. And I think that once we understand this, then it's easy for the team to just say, okay, I'm going to start pulling stories from the top of the backlog into my sprint. That's going to generate a sprint backlog, which is going to be my list of tasks of things that I need to do. And it's going to show that the stories were written well enough and with enough credibility, with enough reliability, that the sprint backlog can be produced, that the individuals feel confident in their detailed requirements that they're trying to pull. So some companies require a detailed checklist to determine whether a story is actually ready, and not just kind of ready or sort of ready. Now, I'm not going to that length of detail where I say you need to have some kind of definitive checklist, but what I am saying is that you need to understand where your stories are and where they're trying to go. You need to understand, with the help of an analyst, a business analyst, a functional analyst, a technical analyst, what direction you're pulling this story, and don't be afraid to get others' opinions, right? There's certainly no crime in getting someone else's opinion to try to figure out if what you're doing is the right thing or not. But I think most importantly, it's the product owner's responsibility for putting all the features and stories into a backlog, but the team is responsible for working with the product owner during backlog grooming, backlog refinement, to help them get the stories into what we call actionable shape, so it can easily be consumed by the team. And only then is the team going to be able to estimate and really be successful and be able to forecast using that acceptance criteria as a tool so that we can see what a definition of ready is. Now, I also want to point out that ready doesn't mean the same thing to every single team. You should have a standardized definition of ready that you're using as a template, and then each team is going to adapt that definition of ready so that it makes sense based on the type of product or service that they're trying to build. Well, I hope that was useful to you. I hope that you got some information there that maybe you didn't know before. As always, we encourage you to reach out to AgileDad if you have questions about this topic or any other topic. And of course, we invite you to visit AgileDad.com, where you can learn more about this topic and many other Agile topics. We've got so many things going on that are exciting there. We encourage you to submit your podcast ideas. If you have an idea for an AgileDad Daily Stand-Up podcast, we'd love to hear your ideas. You can send those over to us at learnmore@agiledad.com. where we'll process those ideas and get them ripped out as soon as we can. So on behalf of the entire team at AgileDad, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.